Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars universe seems to be quite expansive, not just with their new comics, books, novels, and video games, but also, let's not forget about the new Star Wars TV shows, Star Wars movies currently in the works. That's all going to essentially take inspiration from Star Wars legends. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you also very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the new universe by FAVREAU, Filoni, and more creatives coming on board to handle the universe moving ahead is that they really are trying to make things a whole lot more authentic and real for the fans consecutively. They really want to make sure that everything is really going to work and everything is going to meet expectations, and that everything taken from Legends will be done as accurately as possible as they can. And that's what I like about FAVREAU. That's what I like about Filoni, is the fact that they have a lot of attention to detail, and they actually are empathetic toward the Star Wars fans. They care about them. They feel, what they actually went through when it came to all of the letdowns with some of the projects that Disney put out there. And that's exactly why things are coming together, is because we have two creators here that are very passionate about not just what they're doing as a job, but also what they are actually just doing as fans for a job, and of course for applying that to the Star Wars fandom. And that's what I love so much about these two guys. Now, moving to the next thing here, there's been a lot of things happening behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm. We obviously know that Kathleen Kennedy is having a lot of trouble with the Acolyte. I've said this many times before in the past, I don't believe that this show is coming out next year. It's looking like a 2024 release at this point, so let's get right to it. Now, with Kathleen Kennedy actively involved in the Acolyte series, she is also beginning to wrap production on the Skeleton Crew show before they head into post. Now, it's noted that currently Kennedy is still having issues with the Acolyte. However, in a recent interview, Kennedy went on to discuss the franchise and eventually blamed Disney for this specific reason. Kennedy went on to state the following: "I think the main reason why there is such a great divide between fans has a lot to do with how Disney didn't really approve higher budgets for us than normal for our movies. I refuse to believe that the fans were divided over Ryan's vision and JJ's, and we had discussed this with those at Disney beforehand, that we needed a higher budget than normal for these movies. I think the root of the problem, or at least one of the big connections to the issues, has to do with the fact that Disney just would not allow us to spike the budget of each sequel trilogy film that we were set out to make, and especially with Solo as well." Now let me pause here for 1 second. I don't know about what you guys have to say about this, but I highly doubt the budgets of these movies had to do with anything over the fan divide. The fan division had a lot to do with what Rian Johnson implemented in The Last Jedi, what happened with Luke, what happened with the story, the complete shift in tone. I mean, there's so many things to really mention, but again, if you like The Last Jedi, that's fine. I'm just saying the majority do not like this movie. And when we are sitting here now, alright, years later, there's still fans that are divided because of that. And if you guys go ahead and look at the budgets of the sequel trilogy films, I have no reason to believe that the budgets of those movies had anything to do with the divide. These movies, cinematically were perfectly made in my opinion. Even The Last Jedi, great cinematics. Story was horrible in my own opinion. Alright, that's an opinion. And when we look at The Last Jedi as a whole, it really kind of bulldozed the momentum of The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens really kind of kept fans on the edge of their seats because, it's like 2 years until The Last Jedi comes out, but you know what? It's going to be worth it because Luke is going to be coming back in all his glory. And that really reversed itself. Now, with that being said, of course, Kathleen Kennedy goes on to state the following, at no surprise. She goes on to say, "You see, common moviegoers always want a flawless movie. They always want a powerful cinematic experience." Well, Kathleen Kennedy, there's no such thing as a flawless movie. There's always going to be flaws. There's always going to be problems in an actual movie. Star Wars are not. You can't really avoid that, you know? Moving on to the next thing, she goes on to say, we could have done so much more with access to more funding for these films. I promise you that. And it's something that Bob Iger just did not want to risk with this in case the films did not make a big return. In which thankfully they did, but the core of the problem in my eyes was the lack of funding to properly budget these movies and how we could have amped up the marketing of each film quite sharply if you were able to agree on something. I don't believe it was ever a creative issue. I think fans were divided over the fact that our movies needed to look better than anything that they have seen before in the Star Wars universe. These fans and these films never need to be about the Skywalkers to see them, of course. They just needed to be more rich in material is all. So Kathleen Kennedy openly making it clear that she believes that these movies never needed to be about Rey. Or never needed to be about the Skywalkers, I should say, and all about Rey, and all about Finn, Poe, etc. That's what she's putting out there again. She's playing that card once more. And it just really makes you finally realize is that everything related to The Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi, those are the two big films that really made a lot of fans, walk away. I think, and I stand by my opinion here, The Rise of Skywalker was absolutely an improvement from The Last Jedi. It was an improvement. It wasn't the best thing of all, but it definitely had better moments than what we got in The Last Jedi, period. Absolutely. But the way that they were trying to do damage control with that film, it was so obvious, and it just really did not work at all. In fact, there were a lot of deleted scenes, by the way, that were kept under the radar because of Kathleen Kennedy. She wanted nothing to do with those scenes, a lot of which had the Force Ghost showing up, a lot of which also had other elements of Dark Rey and other flashbacks of Luke Skywalker when he was alive. I mean, so much stuff. All left on the cutting room floor on purpose. And you wonder why, right? Well, we all know why. She did not want to contrast between a better film and The Last Jedi by Ryan. So that brings us to the next thing here. Alright? So, she goes on to actually make it clear to fans that she firmly believes that this was never a creative issue that created the division between the fandom. And it's not just the fans, by the way. There is a lot of actors out there that called out the problems with Disney's vision of Star Wars, at least with the sequels, and especially with The Last Jedi. A lot of other Hollywood producers have been coming forward, a lot of other actors like Daisy Ridley pointing out the flaws and pointing out the problems that she had on set, especially also with Episode 9. It's just never ending. I mean, you have these actors stepping forward years later, and I understand why, because they feel more distant from the franchise now. Now, regardless, we already know that we've talked about this, but Daisy is actually coming back as a cameo for a new post-Episode 9 series under Favreau and Filoni's wing, but that's not stopping her from saying anything negative about her experience with Star Wars on set. And you know what? I respect that. I do. It just goes to show you that she's a very honest and true person. So with that being said, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about all this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Night to moon, we hear them moans again.